Jade, we've been talking about when things get really nasty over an inheritance, and there are so many bad stories that are getting around. Amanda on Facebook has said that her grandparents never left a will.
Oh, no.
So her mum represented 6 of her siblings, and they fought against her 2 brothers for 3 years. It was horrible and way too much pressure.
Betty said, my dad passed away recently and everyone is fighting for the money. All I want is his book collection, and he was an avid reader and he loved his books. Just give her the books.
Exactly.
Oh, no. I got my grandpa's wedding ring when he passed away.
Did
Which
you?
I really love because it just reminded me of him. It's worth nothing, but Nan wanted it, but I told her to suck it up.
Excuse me.
I think we need a lawyer.
We do need a lawyer.
on
Joined
the
us
phone.
now. She's a family law expert and partner at Tyndall Gas Bentley. Jane, we've opened up a huge can of worms this morning because we're talking about when families get ugly over deceased estates. It is a crazy time for some, isn't it?
It is a crazy time for some and very common.
Really? How much of this do you deal with?
A fair bit, I've got to say, and it's ever increasing because of blended families and complexity in people's financial circumstances. So we are seeing a lot more people that need this kind of help.
Jane, is it grief taking over or is it greed?
I think it's actually probably grief. Obviously, people don't always act very rationally in that situation, and they feel tremendous loyalty to their deceased person and wonder where they sat in the pecking order for the deceased person. So I think often the emotions actually get away with people rather than what really is the money.
So, Jane, if you've got a will, what's in there? Is that gospel, or can people still challenge what's actually in there?
Yeah, no, it's not gospel, unfortunately. There's a few things. There's sort of the homemade wills or the wills that are ambiguous and that might not meet the legal requirements.
Yep.
So you could have a will that's not necessarily legally valid, so they can be challenged.
Mm.
And then there's a whole other range of wills that can be challenged, which is under a bit of legislation that says certain family members can challenge a will if they think they've not been adequately provided for.
Jane, what happens when there's no will altogether?
If we've got no will altogether, then the legislation will tell the family members how the assets are to be distributed. The public trustees fairly heavily involved in the administration of those estates. And the really sad thing about those ones is often the way the
Mm.
legislation distributes the assets isn't really in accordance with the wishes of the deceased person.
Oh, really?
And that's really heartbreaking at times for people. Because, I had one matter where a young man was killed. The law said that his estate was to be divided between his mother and father.
Yep.
But in fact, he hadn't had a relationship with his father for 15 years.
Oh,
and
boy.
that father, his mother had been a single mum and raised him.
Oh, no.
And the father was entitled to half of his assets. So there's some really upsetting stories like that where people haven't made the right arrangements to put down their wishes in a legally valid way.
Jane, my husband has an extensive collection of ice hockey cards that he wants to leave to me, but I don't want them. Is there any way I can ensure that I don't get them?
I'm sure we can sort that out for you, Jodie, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Well, good on you, Jane. Thanks for joining us. But I think the bottom line is here, make sure everyone's got a will. That pretty much helps it, certainly, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yes, being prepared certainly saves cost, it saves agony, and reviewing your will regularly as well. A lot of people have wills that they were prepared a long time ago, and so they all need to be reviewed regularly to make sure they're up to date.
Thanks, Jane. Jane Miller, family law expert with Tyndall Gas Bentley.